had public comments, so we have unfinished business update on East Troy Railroad Museum Bridge on Beach Road. Did you get a response back from,
I did. He said he has not yet had the chance to review the attached agreement with the board of directors and did discuss it with the executive committee. A question in sections 4, 8, 9, mostly regarding, the fiscal costs. And he concluded, you need to have a reliable cost projection and a specific limitation on the museum's financial obligations in connection with the transaction. In any event, we should await the determination on our congressionally directed spending request application before taking further action on the matter.
okay, a few things changed on this, but first of all, with earmarks, there's no guarantee when you have to actually say you got it. I heard 3 different dates, can't confirm it with, Senator Baldwin's office. I don't think we can wait, that's number 1. Number 2, I did forward an email to the board about, I believe it's from Tim Lynch, about the DOT has a change in policy here that may help us here. And I'm not sure it's a change, even though it's not mentioned regularly. You can, apply for a bridge replacement, with a sufficiency rating of 50, which we're at, okay, not, higher number. If the rehabilitation report shows that indeed it's not, doesn't need rehabilitation, it needs replacement. So there is an avenue to have.
I don't think we're at 50 yet.
Well, the number that we need, we have right now with this program. Okay, so I'm gonna, with the board, unless the board objects, I'm gonna have another discussion with their CEO to say, all right, we did get a response back from your attorney. Did your board even weigh in with his response? Because I've been told that. And number 2, tell them that we really shouldn't wait here with this, because it doesn't matter whether we rehab or replace the bridge. We still need that, basically that sales agreement that transfers that ownership, because you're not getting a grant without that ownership. So I wanna do those 2 things, and I do think that, we can probably plan on adding this again next month to force some action.
I think it should be added every month, because I agree, we cannot wait. The funding that may be available this year.
Right, the funding that's available right now, with this newest version, if you wanna call it that, tells us that we have to do it. Okay, 100%, federal grant for this is what could make this issue a non-issue. Okay, because we all know, we're gonna own this bridge in the future. We just don't wanna be held liable for something we don't own now. And that's their same problem. They also said they didn't know the numbers. We didn't know the numbers either. You have to guess that one. Unless we hire somebody to do that. And I'm not for that right now, other than potentially, I could get a little help from Lynch and Associates, at least put some more clarity to it, so that it can be sent to our boards, theirs and ours, to maybe move this train over, right now that train is stuck.
Didn't they offer to help write the, grant?
Well, any expenses that would happen, they're usually sharing equally, and a grant would be a cost, but, everything done so far is 50-50, and, I did tell them that, that is not an automatic. Okay. The last time that bridge was replaced in 1980, the town paid for the approaches, not the bridge. Okay. Now, it did come out to a fairly substantial number, because we have quite a real estate. Okay. But if we pay this for the approaches, it's gonna be 25% of that bridge versus 50%. Board doesn't have an objection, I will continue contact with Tammy Baldwin as well as the CEO.
Okay, authorize you to do that?
Well, I think I already been previously authorized, but again, we think we're okay here.
I would make another motion, just to make sure it's continuing.
I make a motion to authorize Chairman Clarkowski to continue to pursue, ownership of the Beach Road Bridge with the East Troy Railroad Museum, as well as funding with, Tammy Baldwin's office
Yeah, I guess I would add to this.
and Tim
Okay. Second, we have a second by Bill, okay, a question now?
Yeah, when we met with the railroad, wasn't Walworth County's Richard Huff very supportive of us replacing that bridge? Is there any way that he could, again, impart his
Okay,
position with the railroad?
potentially, because he did this with another bridge in the town of Lynn, that was a little cleaner than this one. But I could make that, have that discussion too. But what Mr. Huff has mentioned is that since when the federal grants are allocated and the bridge money goes to Walworth County, this bridge will be number one on the list, he said that.
I know, that's why I wanted.
But he also said it has to be municipally owned.
Correct,
Yes,
that's the key.
that's why
We
I'm
have to own it.
wondering if he can't help implore the East Shore Railroad to come to terms with us. Owning the bridge is imperative, yet we don't wanna hold ourselves to $1 million worth of repairs when they certainly have some stake in it.
Okay, any further discussion, questions, hearing none, on motion to authorize me to continue that discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? None, carries. Okay, review and approve snow plowing contract draft cover letter for private road residents and schedule. It's kind of an all-inclusive type of deal here. I wanna say a couple things about this before we go into the meat of this. The actual resolutions that we've done it in 2016. And the previous one, so that's, 7 years. And the previous one was 2010, I believe. So we were due for an update in the cost, okay? And the cost that was mentioned in the letter, was $74, but that included administrative costs for the, office staff. Our calculations say that if we continue with this, it would be $70, alright? And a lot of that is inflation, because we didn't do it since, like I said, 2016. So, you know, we're due for that adjustment. The authorization we gave last month to, Attorney Mills was to, change that letter and modify it, as well as have a cover letter, so that if we were to send it to people with the tax bill, they would know, what would be expected. The question came up, I believe Supervisor Whitmer said, hey, the people that are most affected by this, they haven't been notified, and no input was obtained from them. So that's kind of where we're at here. The question is not as simple as the, taking brush and chipping it. This one here is, we're gonna continue a service that we've been doing for 50 years. The concern was about the cost, we got that covered. And we also have we had a concern about the contract, okay? And we have a contract, okay? It's not a written contract, it's offer acceptance consideration. And I've been reading enough statutes over the last 50 years to know that if the legislators wanted to say written contract, they would have said written contract, they said contract. Attorney Mills said there's a possibility that if there's any litigation, that a judge may interpret that statute to say, well, all contracts are written, so that's the thing we have to consider. The other thing we have to consider is, you know,
No.
legal wise.
I don't think a judge would say that, he or she. The language of the statute is what matters, and you're right, it does not say written in it. So I think we have some leeway, but in terms of the waiver of liability portion of it, that would have to be more specifically approved by the resident.
Right, so that has been, what your change was last month, and we've had this on the agenda, I don't know for how many months. It's been a lot. We do have a process now on how we come up with the costs, we can defend that, you know, so the question is, what does the town board wanna do with this long-standing service? Again, the service to the community, you know, gentlemen, you or not, he said, I pay taxes for everybody else, and this is in addition to it. And if it's saying that, you know, that's not enough, well, it's enough now, okay, and like I said, a lot of that adjustment, you know, was, you know, inflation too, you know, not all, it's not 35 to 70, you know. So just doing the straight inflation calculation, $9 of that 35 is just inflation. The other part is, should we have done it, you know, more often? Well, we have a policy, a procedure now that says, it'll be looked at budget time, every year, okay? And we'll use, this year we're using a 3-year running average for events. Next year we'll have another year of data, you know, this year, or next year's data. So we will have the correct information to make this happen. So that's the question here that before we go.
I have a couple of concerns. First of all, we asked Shorewood Road to repair their road in order for it to be plowed. For us not to plow it because one person doesn't sign the contract is not fair to what we required Shorewood to do. The other thing is that the snow and ice on the road, it is going to make things worse for police, EMS, and fire. That is going to add to my maintenance costs of those vehicles. It is going to add to the time that it takes those vehicles to respond to an emergency, and we don't have the luxury of time in an emergency to take our time to get there. The last thing is, we have volunteers who work on the fire and the rescue. I don't want to put the fire and the rescue at any more risk than we need to. The roads need to be plowed, and we need to keep doing what we have been doing.
Anybody else? Bill? Go ahead.
Again, as you reiterated, I'll reiterate what your point that we've not asked the residents affected by this. I saw 17 stand up saying they're opposed to this at Mr. Rice's request. I've heard one person who does not live on a private road object to us doing this service. I support the current policy of providing plowing and snow service on private roads, as well as charging a reasonable fee for those services. Again, I would note from my outreach to people, they've been doing this for, you say 50 years, I've heard 20 years, and I can't think of any claim for injury, death, damages that resulted from the town services, because frankly, DPW is the best, and they're gonna get it done, and I hope that we, no longer entertain this proposal.
Stand corrected on the years we did this, the ordinances, or the resolutions that we did were 2008, 16, and now we're considering, 2023, so we're doing it on 7-8 year interval, now we're gonna be doing it annually. So, okay, Jen, anything to add?
I don't think I should.
Little-
I guess
little bit of public-
My whole, again, I've been told, oh, I don't like the idea of it, but I also don't like the liability for the township. It's a very difficult thing to try to decide on.
Okay,
Boy, oh boy, when that one thing does happen,
by the way, our insurance agent did on record, I asked this question specifically. Are DPW covered for plowing private roads? The answer is yes, so there is coverage, okay? Yep, I did right after our last meeting.
we'll get that in writing,
She did put it right.
that we absolutely are covered no matter what.
Yep. Actually, I forwarded it to Noah Gordon, you didn't get it, I forwarded it.
I did not get that.
Okay, no, so what's your name again, Lynn,
Michelle,
I'd like that too.
That changes my opinion on all of it.
it is a.
Scott Strauss,
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 Strauss.
Strauss.
So they'll cover it whether everybody signs it or not, or we have a written contract from
I
everyone
had,
or
the
not.
question I put in writing to her was, under our current insurance policy, is the town DPW department covered for liability for plowing, private roads? And she said, yes, and I will forward that to her. I thought I already did. Jim said you didn't see it?
I don't recall.
Okay, it was an email. Right,
And you'd almost have to look at the exclusions in whatever policy she's referring to,
It's our policy.
to verify.
I actually talked to,
I know, but we might have more than one policy.
I talked to an insurance expert about that a little bit. The question is if the answer was no, show me where that exception is. Okay, so you have to ask that question. The answer was covered.
It still doesn't hurt to ask questions.
Sure.
I would ask all the questions that we've been asking ourselves in preparing this stuff for. That's great, they say yeah, but
Yeah.
it changes my mind.
Okay.
Because liability is what has been riding this thing
Sure.
this whole time.
Last month, you said if this is a liability issue, there's nothing else. The question was asked and answered, and I think that's why I called. So I'll send it on, but, yeah. Yeah, answer your question.
Well, I guess it's about whether or not we're compliant, right, with our municipal, with the state language, right, the municipal language. And Attorney Mills has pointed out that there's a possibility that there's risk and we're not in compliance, that there are options. So I think that's why we spent so much time on this.
Yeah.
And he has.
I mean, even if we can refer to a sheet of paper that they signed, 12, 15 years ago, because there's language in here that says by signing it, you continue to authorize this to happen. I know we had a petition for one of the roads, so I think that would.
That's how this whole thing started, is the residents petitioned the town to plow their roads.
Right.
The residents came to the town, we didn't go to them, they came to us.
Correct, that's how it started, that's how it came to be, and I
So that
found,
road would be questions covered.
I found many of them, but I was looking at road records, not looking for that, and I found a couple of them, but the deal was people on private roads said, hey, we want you to do it, they signed the petition, and if there was more than 50% on that road said they wanted it, they got it, okay? And that's how all of them were at it, I mean, there was no, that was a process, okay? So, did anybody in the past come back and say, stop doing it? Well, I think if anybody did, we stopped doing it.
And I don't know what the process was back when it started.
Or what about, I think today we are not plowing all private roads, is that correct, Tom? Or are we doing all roads in the town, or is there some that we're not?
Is there that one that doesn't wanna be? Coastal Drive.
Yeah, there's-
Driveway.
Yeah, there's a couple that,
It's a
they
road,
call it a road,
it's
but
a
there are more
driveway.
driveways than a road.
That's not one of them,
No.
no, it never was. One, so,
In our mileage, is there any road that we do not plow today?
I
I thought there was the one because of the salt in the brine for airplanes or something, wasn't there one road that they asked not?
Yeah, breezy and
Oh, by
grassy.
the airplanes?
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, we'll put them all.
But that's how they got on it, that was by request, so there's some that could have not requested, but the town didn't start automatically doing it, but now how it happened. So, I think more questions, than the answers, but I don't see it. So, all right, everybody have their shake at the cat over here?
My only question is, are we going to do the, agenda item, or are we going to do nothing?
Well, that's the question. One thing is to send it, there's three ways to do it. One way is to enact it. Two is to send to, the 259 residents and say, hey, they're not doing it next year in the winter of 23-24, but it could happen the following year. What do you think? We have nothing right now other than what you heard tonight.
Well, the draft letter I sent for comments, I received 0 comments from anyone, and it's not even a completed letter.
Right.
I didn't get
I've
it.
made notes.
I didn't get it, but when I got it from him, I made notes.
Yeah,
But I didn't get
but
it.
we're not ordinary.
The completed portion of it, where you asked how the council was doing, I was asking,
Right. Okay. Oh, I see.
comment, I think we commented last month on it, so.
Were we gonna do October 15th?
No, we cannot,
No.
we cannot do October
If we
15th.
do, not
It has to
at
be
all.
August 15th at the latest.
That was my comment.
Mail it in July, we want it back by August 15th.
On the contract itself, item 1A, was it the concern? The resident notifies the town in writing that the service is no longer required. What if they decide to do that on December 15th? I mean, you know what, I think that
For the
it-
following year.
I mean, I think there has to be some kind of language in there to, and then again, the dates in 2, and then in that all capitalized final whole paragraph need to be changed. Those are the things I found.
I'm sorry, repeat that. 1A, I got that one.
1A, and then in 2, the date again,
Oh.
and then in the final capitalized paragraph, the date again. Those were the things I had.
But technically,
Oh.
we're saying August 15th because then that gives you time to follow up.
Yeah.
Gives us time to follow
We're
up and
going
get it on the
door to
taxes.
door, knocking on people's doors.
And
Yeah,
then we're gonna-
that's why you
We
did those
have-
nice letters.
Yeah, we have some Shorewood Drive rock stars who already signed the old
Yeah.
contract, that was a draft, but yeah.
And people asked me if they were going to be signing tonight,
Yeah.
and then the other thing was this, at the bottom of this contract with waiver of liability language, there's nothing that says that, Jim. It's the third line in the all capitalized paragraph at the bottom,
Mhm.
the return the completed section at the bottom of this
Sure,
contract
number
with
4.
waiver of liability
That's
language.
Number 4.
Okay,
Paragraph 4 is the waiver.
okay. So they're not returning just the bottom,
Return the whole.
No, it's saying that the waiver language is section 4. It's not-
It is section 4.
Right, right, it's not a separate waiver, this is a
Oh, I see.
waiver.
you see that language is obtuse in my mind? Return the completed section at the bottom of this contract with waiver of liability language by, so it's the with waiver of liability language that is.
Right, and that needs to be separated with commas or something else.
Okay.
That's not suggesting the waiver language is at the bottom of the page.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so it
Which
is just,
includes or something.
Right.
okay,
Be above.
so it's just the the way it's written, okay. Those were my 2 cents.
All right.
And of course, the P.O. box that says the street address, or we'll never get one.
If I were to comment, in the cover letter, I would ask that the third paragraph, please note, be bolded and underlined. Because unless it's clear that everybody's gotta sign it and return it, or the service ends. We're doing the service to the resident.
And we're sending this out for feedback?
I don't know that we're sending it.
Well, we didn't decide that yet, we're either sending it out, the feedback, or sending it out to do it, you know, so. I think we-
Do it as.
I was asked by a resident today how they could turn it in, I said that would be part of our communication with them, is ways that they could turn it in.
We need a motion
So
then.
Tom, and I think we had a good showing here that, I think, there's awareness, and I'm not sure it's right.
All right, we need a motion. I'll make a motion that, we continue with our current practice. And, if something comes up in the future here that changes that direction, that we do it. And also, that we do ask for some feedback, you know, at tax time, it could be this letter, it could be a different one. Make the people aware that this is being considered. It may be possible something comes up here that is black and white that says we have to do it. So my motion is to continue, as a current practice. The charge will be, for next year, will be $70 per, unit. And, that's my motion.
Second.
Richard, second, discussion.
So, does your legal opinion change because you talk to the insurance company? The whole thing is what holds me up for the town meeting.
Right.
That's
Without
the
having
issue.
separately looked at what our policy does or doesn't cover, it's still a lingering question for me, and it's always preferable that you have written waiver language somewhere.
My motion included that James will revisit me. So what? So my motion had the language there, revisiting, that could be a change, that could be something that would.
Sure, my motion is to do it this year the way we've been doing it.
Motion is continue as is.
My concern is the liability for doing it this year without having something.
They've already paid for this year.
You ready, what?
They've already paid.
No,
It's a
don't
year
we,
out.
don't we pay in arrears?
Till December 31st of 2023. They have not paid, it started January 1st.
I've always been told it was for the season.
No.
That's what I tell.
No.
Assessment.
I think you said that. a month
I said that last month.
All right.
I guess I'm a little concerned that we, you know, put all this effort and attorney fees and all this effort.
That's what we do on every issue, we study the hell out of it, and everybody does their homework, and you vote. That's why we get elected, is to make a decision. And, you know, if something changes, my motion says we can revisit it.
Kim, could you reread the motion, please?
I can tell you, Joe Kwiatkowski motioned that we continue with current practices at $70 per unit, and we can revisit the topic as needed.
Good, thank you.
Our church seconded.
All right, roll
That
call
we
vote.
continue what?
With the current practice.
Perfect.
But
At
you also
$70
put,
per
you also
unit.
drew the new, the new rate.
Well,
We would need a
And
new
we would do a
resolution.
resolution come in the fall, just like we do for the garbage charge.
Right, we came up with the number, the difference between what was in the potential contract included the administrative fee for the town. Without a change, there is no administrative fee per se, and our calculation shows 7. Okay, and like I said, the years that we did it, you know, were 2008, 2016, now this will be 2023. Going forward, we'll have a calculation every time, every year. So that is an improvement, and we have better data on the events and better data on the equipment costs. You know, so that's good. Okay, I'm calling the question, roll call vote, Markowski, aye.
Church, aye.
Right,
Wales will say aye because Joe says we're unsure.
I'm going on our attorney's
I'm just
advice,
saying.
yeah?
What was your vote, Michelle?
I was made based on our attorney's advice.
Which was?
Was it yes or
No,
Nay.
No,
no? No, okay, Walker, yes.
okay, so motion carries for what? We're continuing the current practice, the motion says if we have data or something that shows up to change this. use. Okay, thank you guys. All right, discussion and action on down transition plan, Supervisor Reyes. The first item is listening to testing and get coordination with Jim here, which is actually looking for that it's ongoing.
Yes, I got an update from the professor, in response to the email. And I guess that was my question, primary question was, how are we gonna follow up on that and get regular updates? I think there's still some handoff to be done. Probably between myself and Jen, depends on, how things proceed.
And as you know, as we all know, your committee had a recommendation, you two said a recommendation on the record. This will hopefully help answer some of the questions, about that, prior to that work. This testing.
Right, yeah, I think the offer to help with the testing still stands. I think it's been mentioned a couple times. The concern is people in the room, that have impacted it.
I think just now, when I was up talking, because everybody was on their phone. I walked back, everybody was on their phone, and my plate stopped, so I had to restart it. So I don't know how much of what I said actually went live.
I can
So unfortunately,
As Jen stated, it's the grant, it's
Yeah.
the broadband, if that's the issue.
going.
I got it all.
Yeah, he doesn't have any issue.
But he's
John is
taking,
not streaming.
I record it and then I upload it.
You don't need broadband. With him recording, I mean, if you want me to stand here and do this with the camera and do my phone at the same time to record it, I'm happy to do that. But again, then, no, the goal of my not being here
That's the
is
goal.
not going to work.
You don't need
Right,
everybody here.
so, the thing of it is, the only reason I stayed the whole meeting is because obviously we're having this conversation at the end of the agenda. I would much rather did the hour one right after my report. But that's not the option today. Like I said, I'd be happy to test if we didn't have sound, there wasn't much testing I could do. We resolved that on Friday. So I was very excited to get that fixed and now the computer likes spaghetti again. YouTube was not a fan.
All right, updated video and audio equipment, I heard a little bit about some discussion with the equipment is good, but again, is there an issue?
The broadband will be an issue, I think, until we get that new server in, and then we'll seem confident that because of the way that we're separating, the way it comes in, that will be better, but they have to designate that the guest Wi-Fi cannot draw from the administrative Wi-Fi. Because right now, it's equally portioned, so if they start to have a bunch of people pulling, it's
So,
just gonna be an
if
issue.
we make that priority, everybody else is gonna be slow.
Right.
And that's their problem, not ours, because we're
Right.
doing what we need.
Because obviously streaming takes priority to people who scrolling because you're pulling.
But that's not the video.
Why don't we get 2 connections?
That's the,
It is
Hardware
the
behind
broadband, right?
yeah, it's the
Right.
hardware
Right,
behind.
and he said changing platforms won't necessarily change the need, that they're pretty equal in what they're gonna need for broadband. So he said, hopefully, that will help the issue, because again, recording and streaming are two very different animals, and I know we've talked about it several times and compared it to John Speak, but it's not the same. So I'm hoping that, again, it can go better, I'm looking right now, we're at 360, and we're at 32 frames per second, that jumps down to 25 frames per second. It keeps changing. And the bit rate is 1.5. And then jumps to 1.7, so can
think
see
the
the
point-
matrix
yeah.
as we go, and I do wanna continue testing, I'm not saying that I don't, but I think that as far as changing equipment, it might be premature to do that if we don't know if it's gonna improve substantially the second we get the broadband fixed, because that would be a silly investment if what we have is actually good.
And again, I think the point is that, had there been more of an orderly transition, you know, we could work through some of these issues together. We will continue to do, you know, to provide whatever data you're interested in. I got your message from Thursday or Friday. But yeah, I think the point is there were still activities left, and this is documentation for you, and hoping for some kind of orderly transition.
Okay, storage options. I thought we had heard last month that's not an issue.
That is not an issue.
Is that the carbonite issue?
You talk
Well,
about
that's
Carbonite
for
has,
the backup.
Carbonite has been installed at the cloud backup, very secure, and it is on John's computer now, it was installed on Friday.
Well, reinstalled, I had it the whole time, but it expired, so that.
Yeah, it was reinstalled, it's updated, so everything you download was downloaded like at 2 o'clock in the morning or something crazy like that, so.
It's in a cloud, not on a hard drive?
Not a hard drive, just cloud storage, hard drives fail.
Jim, is that allowing us to have control of that then? Does that make that?
Yeah, Carbonite, you can access, her computer fails, it's all
Just go
gone,
somewhere else.
pull it back.
Okay.
That's how a cloud backup works.
And then he said there is a backup that it would be on the server even with the cloud backup, so it's actually dual save.
Okay.
Cause I asked him to kind of expand on it so that I can understand it fast, and I didn't quite understand how secure it was, so there's a double backup apparently with the Carbonite.
Thank you.
Tim, in your report, you talked about virus issues with Carbonite?
That
Am I
was,
understanding?
Or was that we were re-signing up for the Norton antivirus?
yeah, we,
Switched antivirus.
and we added Carbonite, that was one to John's computer, we
With Fortinet.
We had several
Antivirus.
different things going on, and they have been resolved.
No, we're not doing that. We're doing ER, Fortinet is.
That's what we'll install on Friday.
We're gonna,
Again, the point, I don't expect everyone to sit here to go through all 7 issues. The point is to try and have a transition, and to.
I told
that there
Kim
was a
to
minor-
list all of your issues that you had in your email,
So we
just
can
to
deal
make,
with them.
just to make sure that we touched on all 7 that were mentioned. That's why they're listed in this order.
Right.
okay, future newsletters, the discussion we've had, past meetings was is that we all are representatives from our town. If there's any issues, it's gonna be up to us, if there's any issues that somebody wants to see, okay, let us know. And we'll get our, articles to Jen, she will format it and send it to us at the next meeting,